Hi, my name is Brian Washington. I'm a New Orleans native, and I'm currently a senior biology pre-med major at the University of New Orleans. What inspired me to go into the medical industry was the sheer number of health disparities I witnessed in my own community, specifically within the Black and Brown community. Currently, I serve as operation manager for an organization called the 15 White Coats. The 15 White Coats is a student-run organization that seeks to inspire more black and brown doctors. Even though I'm a student, I really believe that there's always something that can be done. So my encouragement to you, all the students out there pursuing any field, specifically the STEM and sciences, is go for it and always know that you can make a difference, no matter how small. The smallest things can make a huge impact.
Hi everyone, my name is Sydney Labotte. I'm from Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, and I'm a current third-year medical student at Tulane University right here in New Orleans. So I actually got into STEM when I had a sports injury, and the doctors who sort of patched me up or helped me heal allowed me to shadow him, spend every day with him, and get to learn a little bit about what he does. So for those of you listening who would like a little bit of advice on how to get into STEM, I would definitely say find a mentor. Find someone who is currently doing what you want to do or pursuing their dreams in a similar fashion, and ask if you can shadow them. Ask if you can spend a little time with them or if they can give you some tips on how to pursue your dreams. A lot of people in our positions and positions above me are super excited and super willing to help you in any way they can. So reach out. And one other thing I would say is to always remember that you are capable, you have all of the abilities everyone else has, if not more, and you deserve to be here and you deserve all of the success coming your way. So remember to keep your head up, persevere, and you will absolutely achieve your goals.
Hello, everyone.
What's up?
Russ, Brian, just make sure the rest of us get on here.
Okay.
In the meantime, I think we can get rolling though, as I have a little intro as well. That video was wonderful, but I'm going to start. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Minorities in Medicine, Overcoming Barriers to Success in the Healthcare Field session. My name is Mashley Florestill, and I am a second-year medical student at Tulane University School of Medicine. I also have the distinct privilege of being the outreach and mentorship manager on the manager team of the 15 White Coats. And the mission of our organization, you heard a little bit about it in the video from Brian, but the mission of our organization is to increase the representation of Black students and students of color in medicine, first by providing imagery for learning spaces, second by easing the financial burden of the application process. You'll hear about some of that in a few minutes, to ease the financial burden of applying to medical school and increasing cultural literacy. And so this session was of utmost importance to us to participate in, not just because we've lived a lot of these barriers ourselves, but we are actively doing our best to be a part of the solution. So without further ado, I'm going to get to the questions that I've prepared for our distinguished panelists who I love and treasure deeply. These are my colleagues and my friends, and you're going to be hearing a little bit about their stories. So I'm going to ask them 5 questions, and at the end, we'll save about 5 minutes to take questions from the audience. So to start, please introduce yourselves for those of us who are here now. Tell us your name, tell us where you're from, your background in other fields before you got into medicine, and what point of your training you're in.
I guess I can start. Can you hear me?
No, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Brian Washington. I'm a New Orleans native and currently a student at the University of New Orleans, biology major. I'm a senior and I'll be applying to medical school this year. Prior to getting on the track that I'm on right now, I ran a health food business that helped people transition to a healthier habits and healthier eating habits. And so that's a little bit about me.
I guess I can go next. Good morning, everybody. I love Saturday mornings. They're the best time. My name is Sydney Labotte. I am from Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. That's a little town about 45 minutes away from New Orleans. And I am currently a third year medical student at Tulane. So I am one of those people who didn't have a ton of life experience before starting medical school. I went straight through. I'm a graduate of Xavier University of Louisiana, also here in New Orleans, and they sort of put us on a conveyor belt and ship us out. I got a lot of classmates who did sort of the same thing. So yeah, I love where I'm at. I'm excited to be almost finished with medical school, and I am happy to be here and open to any questions y'all might have.
Yeah, so my name is Russell Laday. I'm also a third year medical student. That's my classmate, Sydney Labotte. That's my dog. And let me see the other question. So how did I get into medicine is another one, right, Mashley? Okay. So I took a really long journey to get into medicine. I was a scientist, and as a scientist, I just kind of felt uncomfortable not understanding how to treat patients. And so med school is really the only way you can learn how to treat patients and diagnose their diseases. And so here I am in my third year medical school, last little bit of third year, or almost fourth years, which is crazy. Yeah.
And if Rachel, if you could just introduce yourself. I know you just got here. She's on her way, or she just got back from the hospital. So,
hi, my name's Rachel Turner. I'm a third year medical student at Tulane with some of these wonderful people. Sorry I was late. I'm on my OBGYN rotation, so I just came from the hospital, but I'm happy to be here.
sweet. Thank you, everyone. And I thought that question was especially important, not just to kick off the panel, but for everyone to know that there is not one way to get into medicine. A lot of us take different roads, and all those different roads, I think, make us better doctors in the long run. So I think that was really important for everyone to hear. The next question is, why did you choose a career in medicine? We got to hear Brian's answer from the video, but for everyone else who wasn't in the video, please share why medicine.
I think I can go. So I had, you know how like people grow up and they're like, oh, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. Like that was never me. I never had that inkling. Actually, throughout like my high school career, thought that I wanted to go to college and major in a bunch of languages. Eventually work at a U.S. embassy overseas somewhere. I wanted to go to law school. I had all of these ideas, right? And I had a sports injury my junior year in high school. I tore my ACL like 2 days before Christmas. It's very dramatic. I was like, oh my gosh, my life is over. But obviously when you're 17, sometimes you think that way. But it was a blessing in disguise because the surgeon who patched me up and who operated on me was very nice. He let me follow him around for the next 2 months. So I got to shadow him. I had to see what his day-to-day looks like. And I definitely was like, okay, medicine it is. And that kind of freaked out the people around me because I had never spoken about being a doctor. I had never spoken about wanting to pursue medicine at all. On top of the fact that I didn't really know a lot of Black doctors. I didn't know a lot of doctors personally. So I'm saying all that to say that regardless of how your calling comes to you, don't fight it, because God literally had to knock me out for me to realize what was going on and what I needed to do and where I needed to be. So take all your lessons in stride, because you never know. They might bring you to a place you never thought you would be. So that's how I'm here.
Yeah, I think I'll piggyback on the preach word from Sister Sydney. I definitely think that I don't know if I chose medicine or medicine chose me. I know oftentimes, we say like, oh, I chose medicine, or I chose to be a lawyer, I chose whatever. but I think sometimes like you have a call and like it'll just come to you. It sounds weird. It will just kind of come to you, and it'll make sense because it'll feel right. And feeling plays a huge role in where you end up and what you end up doing. And it needs to feel right. I never thought I'd be a doctor. Never dreamed of being a doctor. Didn't go around, thinking like, oh, I'm going to be a doctor one day. I just kind of dreamed as I grew up, and just kind of imagined if it was possible. I would ask myself questions like, is this even possible? Is this something that I can do? And I know there are many kids who ask themselves that same question. Like, is this even, like, can I even do this? And it's nothing wrong with asking yourself that question. I think that question is often rooted in not seeing anyone who looks like you doing something that you want to do. It's kind of hard for you to imagine being that. So you kind of, move yourself towards the things that you do see people who look like you doing. And so imagination plays a huge role. And then always giving yourself a shot. Like, although it wasn't necessarily what I planned on doing, I never said to myself, like, no, I can't do this. And that's sometimes like we defeat ourselves by saying that we can't do it. Let someone else tell you no. First time I applied to medical school was in undergrad, but I only applied to MD, PhD programs. And it didn't work out the way I wanted to. And that was a no. It was like a way of somebody saying no. But that's okay, because it was a no for now. It wasn't a no forever. And so sometimes you got to, get knocked back down and get back up. And sometimes you got to go find yourself a little bit. Don't be afraid to take a little while to get to where you're trying to go. But if you want to become a doctor, I mean, it's possible. We're living proof that it's possible. And that's kind of why we do what we do at the 15 White Coast, because we understand that some kids literally don't think it's possible. And we're trying to change that narrative as much as we can.
That gives us the perfect segue into the next question. How exactly do we get here? What are the technicalities of getting into medical school? And so somebody can answer that, or a couple people can answer that. And the next question is, what are some of the specific barriers that Black and minority applicants face in their application journey?
So I guess I'd be happy to talk about some of the technicalities of getting into medical school. As someone who I consider myself to be not a traditional applicant, in the sense that I applied to medical school 3 times before I even got accepted. So in regards to technicalities, I guess very broadly, I would say, obviously you have to go to undergrad, and then you have to take the MCAT, and then you have to take certain pre-med classes. Things like that are just kind of like standardized requirements across the board. For me personally, I tended to perform very well in the classroom, but I was not a great standardized test taker. So the MCAT was not a friend of mine. With that being said, I think going off of what Russell said in regards to just because you're told no once doesn't mean like that's the end all be all. If it's something that you're very passionate about, I think the biggest thing I've realized is there are a lot of avenues to get to where we are. And amongst our classmates, I've seen that there are people who took 5 years off after undergrad before coming to medical school. So there's not one way to get where we are. And I think that's becoming more normalized, and definitely needs to be a topic of conversation, because people feel like if they don't come straight for undergrad, then this isn't meant for them and this isn't what they're supposed to be doing. So in regards to someone like myself who wasn't a great standardized test taker, I looked for other ways to boost my application, such as just, getting involved in the community, finding mentors, whether that were people currently in medical school or physicians who could provide insight on how to make myself a more competitive applicant. And I think with the 15 white coats, that's definitely what we're trying to do. Not only to be mentors, but to also just be like a support system to let you know that it's okay and we're here, because sometimes just having someone there in the back corner rooting for you makes all the world of a difference when you're contemplating whether or not you should keep on going with what you're doing. So I think those are the biggest things that keep people from continuing to apply to medicine, is thinking that there's this box that you have to fit into to be a qualified applicant to become a doctor. And it's definitely not the case at all. And you kind of don't find that out until you're actually in medical school and you can see yourself amongst your peers who all are coming from such different backgrounds. So definitely, I think, especially with COVID, we're seeing that there's so much more to being a great doctor than just being a great test taker. Being compassionate, being empathetic, getting involved in your community. So those are definitely things that I think get highlighted more now than they did in the past. Those are kind of the main things that I'm thinking about in regards to, I guess, the logistics of applying to medical school. Obviously perform well on your tests or to the best of your ability. But definitely be a well-rounded applicant is, I think, the most important part, which is more than just test taking.
I think Brian might have a unique perspective on this topic just because you're actively going through it now, you know? So maybe bring us back, Brian. Let us know how you're feeling right now.
Right. Yeah, I'm going through the process, and right now I'm getting prepared for the MCAT and the AMCAS application, and it's all new. Like, it's all new to me, and to even people who've been preparing for this for a long time. Like, there's, even after you apply and you put down $320 for the MCAT, and there's a secondary, I think, like, application or letter you have to submit that I'm just finding out about. So there's a lot of aspects to it that I'm still getting, information on. But more than anything, I think once I went into undergrad and understood that I had to take prereqs, there's also so many other things that pre-meds are expected to do. You're like, pre-meds are known for being super busy because you're trying to volunteer, you're trying to do some type of research, you're trying to maintain your grades, do well on these tests. So there's a lot that goes into kind of trying to make yourself be a great looking applicant. But I think one of the things that stood out to me the most, and something I really enjoyed, was research. Within doing research, I really was able to understand its role within the STEMs and how it goes hand in hand with what physicians do in treating patients. But that's an opportunity I would have never known about had I not had mentors like Dr. Labotte and other people. I just wasn't exposed to a lot of those things. And so yeah, that's kind of my spiel on the process right now.
So my next question is, how do we overcome these barriers? And I think from the video, from Sid, and just through everything that has been said thus far, one consistent theme is mentorship. So maybe I'll modify the question to say, how do we find mentors? Because I remember hearing this going through the pre-med process, but at the University of Florida, I was a number. I was not Mashley. I was just a number. It was thousands of people. And, I had somebody try to convince me that I was disqualified from being a pre-med literally my first day of college. So where do you even go to find a mentor? Where do you look? Who do you like? How do you start the process of seeking out mentorship? Because that seems like one of the main ways we can overcome the barriers we've talked about.
Yeah, I think even with your original question, I think there is one piece that oftentimes I like try to share as much as possible, which is, don't be discouraged. Like that's genuinely half the battle, is like yourself. Like you get into your own head about how well you're gonna do in the end, and how perfect and every word in your personal statement is. Did you add in that one time you volunteered in your AMCAS application? You can't get discouraged, and I'll put it in this context. So, a lot of what we're doing now with the 15 white coats is genuinely based on like us initially recognizing that history played a role in our position in life right now. Right. So we recognize that our ancestors, they endured a lot. And a lot is probably an understatement. For us to be where we are sitting in the seats we're sitting in now, donning the white coats that we done, and walking around in all of our fabulous Black brilliance. I think oftentimes we forget about that part, how resilient of a bloodline we come from, and how that's inside of us too. And I talk about that because I think your mental health plays a huge role in how well you're doing this process of applying to medical school, going through your interviews, which sometimes can be nerve-wracking, worrying, checking your email a million times a day, all those things. It can just get in your head, and so you gotta look at yourself in the mirror and say, I can do this. I know that seemed like very cliche, but it really is half the battle. And then when you're going through this, make sure you got people around you who truly gonna build you up. Like, they're gonna provide some positive affirmations. They're gonna help you when you need your clothes washed because you're sitting in the room studying for 10 hours. Like, that sounds crazy, but I would be lying to you if I didn't say that some of our counterparts had that support, and it makes their process just a tad bit more palpable. So make sure that you got people around you, like your mom or dad or whoever, who's gonna cook for you and bring you something to eat, so that you don't have to get up. And when your room a little dirty, they'll just come behind you and clean it up and not blame it on you, because they understand that you're going through something really tough. And they just there to help you succeed. Mainly because a lot of times for us, I'm gonna be honest, for Black people, you don't know anybody who's been through this process before. And so, like, you need some people who just gonna love on you and support you as you go through something that you've never been through before. Sure, the mental aspect is critical. It's absolutely critical to have somebody ahead of you. But you need somebody on the side of you too, and all around you, just hugging on you and loving on you, praying for you, and helping you along the way, physically and mentally and spiritually, because that's half the battle, is you as a person dealing with all your doubts of self-doubt. You ain't never seen nobody do it before. Comparison. Sometimes we compare ourselves to other people. We go on Student Doctor Network. Don't do that. That's bad. Don't go on Student Doctor Network. It's the devil. And I'll say it anyway. And then just make sure you have some people around you who are going to build you up and tell you, you can do this. And we're here to make sure you make it to the finish line. That is a serious key to success in this process, because it's long, it's enduring, and it's tumultuous. You need some people around you who are going to love on you and support you along this way.
I think I'm going to piggyback off of Russell, because when we talk about mentorship, we always think of someone who's ahead of us, right? And like, that totally makes sense, because you need someone who's going to like be 100% ahead of you and like tell you the steps in the process and stuff to do or whatever. But when he said to have people around you, y'all, and when he said to have people who are going to build you up, that's 100% the truth. And I'm going to say that, like, I use that to this day. Like, last night, Rachel and I were just talking about, like, I have a personal experience in which I'm a third-year medical student. We get evaluated by the doctors who are in charge of us. And I got a particular evaluation that was just kind of nasty. And the doctor wasn't very fond of me and left some comments that I thought were personal jabs at my character instead of my performance as a student. So come to find out, those comments, I requested that those comments be removed from my evaluation because I did not feel like it was a good reflection of me as a student. And I felt like comparatively, it just didn't make sense because of my other doctors telling me I was an exceptional student, but this one did not. And I found out yesterday that those comments will not be removed from my evaluation, and they will be included into my residency application because the director felt that they were appropriate. So obviously huge hits in my confidence, right? Like definitely like me sitting here thinking like I have to be inadequate if someone else would co-sign this, or I have to not be cut out for this if someone else would co-sign. And this is something that happened like less than 24 hours ago. You know what I mean? And you get in your head and all of these things. I was talking to Gabby, and I was talking, it's another classmate of ours, and I was talking to Rachel. And when I say the positive affirmations that they gave me literally pulled me out of a hole, pulled me out of the mental spiral that was, you know, and that just to bring it full circle in that mentorship does not always mean having someone who is going to pave the path for you. It might mean having people who are going to give you those positive affirmations, who are going to clean up behind you, like Russell said, who are going to bring you something to eat, you know what I mean? And from the pre-med setting, that could be your classmates. Like, don't look at your classmates as competition. Don't look at them as competition. Look at them as colleagues, because eventually, if y'all all want to be doctors, you will be colleagues. You will have to work together. Medicine is a team sport. It is not an individual sport, right? So this is a relay team. This is, you're not running 100-meter by yourself. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, but also on the tip of finding mentors who are ahead of you. That's what we're here for, y'all. I know it seems hard, and I see it seems really difficult to find one, but at the same time, you putting yourself and you being in this space right now is good. It's very good. And put yourself out there. Feel free to reach out to us. Feel free to reach out to people that you feel like might be helpful. And I know for me, that's a little scary sometimes, but you'll come across the right person at the right time. That's gonna affect your life in a major way in your pursuits of anything in the STEM field. So yeah, y'all are working on half the battle now. So be proud of that.
Amen.
I deeply treasure all of you. So thank you for those answers. The last question, which is like super personal to me because this is my story. What would you say to the person who's struggling with their prep work? So struggling with the MCAT, struggling with the prereqs, but still interested in a career in medicine. What would you say to that person?
You gotta keep going. You just gotta keep going. I think people often look at challenges as a bad thing. They're like, oh, this is terrible. Like, why is this happening? It's like part of the process. Like, it's not supposed to be easy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know we don't like to hear that because a lot of times we like a really fuzzy story that like it's all flowers and roses, but that's just not the way life works. As you get older, you start to realize like, you know, this is like really challenging. Now, I'm gonna be very candid with y'all, and you probably, even some of my really close friends probably never heard this, but like, and multiple times during medical school that I've come really close to quitting medical school, because I'm also a parent of 2 little girls, and I love being a parent. It's like the most important thing in my life, even more important than medical school. And so I've like cried on my way home from the hospital saying to myself, like, how can I be a good parent and a good medical student at the same time? Because I'm not willing to give up being a good parent to be a good medical student. That sounds terrible, but it is what it is. And my wife would tell me like, listen, it's just part of the challenge. Like, it's just part of it. It's going to suck sometime. And it's not going to feel good. And you are like, if you're studying, honestly, you probably are doing the right things. It just takes time. Like, it takes time to get good at anything. It takes time like, we have this thing in medical school called UWorld. UWorld is like the bane of our existence because like it's really difficult, and it is extremely difficult. I may be understating how difficult it is. And I hate getting like 40% of the questions right. And then the average is like a 60. And I'm like, who gets 60% of these questions right? And the reality of it is that like, I'm just not good enough yet. But that's okay. I said yet. I didn't say forever. Like, just right now, I'm not good enough. It means I got some more studying to do. It means I got some more learning to do. And that's okay. Like, I'm not in a race with anyone else. I just got to run my race. And for all of you all who are struggling with MCAT classes and MCAT courses, at some point, everybody struggled. Nobody on this call can say like, oh, I never struggled. I still to this day haven't gotten 100% on a UWorld question set. Like, but it doesn't mean that I haven't passed my exams. It just means that I've gotten better over times, especially with this generation. We want the microwave, and we want to take time, and it takes work. And so that's what it is. It takes work and it takes time. And that's why, like Sydney just said, you got to have those people around you who are going to build you up when it sucks, because it sucks. Like, it really, really, really sucks. And this journey to becoming a doctor it's honestly not that fun. It has some fun moments, but overall it's pretty painful. And it's pretty hard. It's really hard. But it's supposed to be, because you're dealing with people's lives at the end of the day, and you want to be tested in every which way possible to make sure that you're ready for the journey ahead of you as a physician. So don't be discouraged and don't be dismayed. Your time is coming. Study hard. Don't procrastinate. And then be surrounded with people who also are doing similar things, studying hard, and they're there to support you.
I would kind of like piggyback off of that, as you know, Mashley kind of talked about struggling with the prep work, MCAT. You're looking at someone who took the old MCAT, took the new MCAT, literally struggled. And I say all this to say that getting past opening my score, I took the MCAT. I honestly, at this point, it's irrelevant because I am where I am now. I think it was 3 or 4 times. I look back and that was such a small portion of like what I'm doing now. And at the time, I remember feeling like I was never going to get past that phase of my life. And here I am. But I say all that to say, I think the biggest thing for me was letting go of this vision of how I thought getting into med school was going to go for me and how I thought it was going to happen on a set timeline. And the moment that I was able to do that, I was kind of able to accept what God's plan for me was. And I look back and I'm like, I'm a better person now for having gone through what I went through to get where I am. And that's a really hard thing to be accepting of, because ideally we want things to happen the way we want them to happen and when we want them to happen. But ultimately everything happens for a reason, as cliche as it sounds. And be willing to take that time for yourself. I remember, I just wanted to get in med school. So I was like, I'm just going to do this. But there was a moment when I had to stop and just reflect on, why is it that I want to go to med school? What can I do differently? Things like that. I would just say that, if you come to the realization that medicine isn't what you want to do, that's fine, but let it be a realization that you come to in and of yourself, and not something that a standardized test or trials and tribulations that you face getting there makes your decision for you. I think that's a big part of why a lot of people decide not to go into medicine, because it is hard. Struggling to get into medical school is normal and it's real, and people feel like it shouldn't be like that. But ultimately, what Russell said, you're dealing with people's lives, and if it were easy, everybody would do it, and it ain't supposed to be easy, So yeah, I had never met someone who had failed the MCAT not failed, but I didn't get the score that I needed to. And so seeing people who are in med school or doctors now being like, yeah, I took the MCAT 4 times too. I applied to med school 5 times before I got in, and look where I am now. It's really irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. So don't let it deter you from wanting to pursue medicine.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say something really quickly, in that what I want people to get from this is understanding that we talk about test taking and we talk about scores not being the most important, and we're not lying. And I also want you to reflect on what is going to make you a phenomenal doctor, because you have something that will. Absolutely. Like, Russell's a fantastic parent and one of the most empathetic people I've ever met. You know what I mean? Like, that ability that he has is going to make him a phenomenal doctor. Rachel's incredibly, incredibly detail-oriented, incredibly intelligent. Is going to bulldoze over her obstacles if she needs to, like Brian and Mashley are incredibly, incredibly concentrated and incredibly, like they really can devote so much of themselves to something else while still maintaining their studies, while still doing something that they seem passionate about. And it's just so important to find what that is about yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna toot everyone's horn in here in every way, shape, and form, because y'all are all super, super deserving. And it's gonna make y'all phenomenal physicians. So when times get rough, and those times are when you're like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this, reflect and realize what you bring to the table and what's going to make you different and what's going to make you a phenomenal physician, because you will. I think mine is the ability to crack a joke every now and then. So so my patients aren't so serious all the time, you know what I mean? But you got it, you know, you really have something special. You really have something people don't have. And toot your own horn every now and then, okay? It's okay.
Yeah, and I'll say this real quick, is if you still have the desire to be a doctor after going through facing adversity, you have all you need. Because like everybody is saying, is you're going to face it. That's a part of the process. But if you still want it after going through that, you have everything else we all have. Because we've all faced it, but we still want it in the end. So if you still have that, it's for a reason. And, you know, take those no's as motivation. When I decided, okay, I'm interested in becoming a physician, I was like, well, I'm going to get close to this. I hopped in a hospital, patient transporter was the only thing I could do at the time. And I asked every doctor I met about their journey. Could I shadow them? I got 3 no's before I got a yes. And, you know, each no I took as just more motivation to ask somebody else. So don't get discouraged, get encouraged, and know that there's a reason and you have everything you need.
And I have absolutely nothing to add. That was perfect. And that's all the time we have too. So I'm going to invite Michelle to share the questions from the audience with us.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank everyone for being a part of this event. I know it's a tech event, but we wanted to stop and talk about STEM and talk about your pathway to success, because you're on the road and you could be such a great encouragement to so many people. And Sydney, you just summed everything up so well, you and Brian. And so I really do appreciate this conversation. I want to see more Black doctors out there, and you guys are on that path. Your mentors, your innovators, your influencers. You know, New Orleans is happier for you being a part of the community. And I'm just so grateful to have you here. So we have 2 questions, but I'm only going to ask one. I think you've already answered one of those. And one of the questions is about what kind of scholarships or grants or any non-financial aid are offered to med students or PA schools. So I know that you have some things coming up that you're going to be pushing through 15 White Coats. I just wanted to give someone an opportunity to talk a little bit about any scholarships that you may know about and anything that may be coming down the pipeline.
Sorry, just to make sure I understand correctly, are we talking about just scholarships that the 15 White Coats have coming, or other scholarships in general?
Let's talk about the 15 White Coat scholarships. And then if anyone knows of any other scholarships out there that you want to share, you can send those to me. I can put those in the chat box, or you can talk about them briefly. We have about 90 seconds. Unfortunately, we're at the end. So if anybody want to add a little bit to that, that would be great.
Alrighty. So very quickly, we have a scholarship that we're going to be announcing in roughly 2 days. You can check for it on our social media platforms, at the 15 White Coats on Instagram, also our website. It's going to be a scholarship for freshman and sophomore college students, and there will be a lot of details on all of our platforms. But be on the lookout. We will be releasing scholarships roughly every 2 months pertaining to different types of applicants. So high school students or current medical students. And our plan is to continue doing this for a while now. So we'll be releasing all different kinds of scholarships. I don't want to, hone in on anything specific, because that's the idea, is that it'll be very broad. But definitely be checking social media platforms for us, Instagram, Twitter, and our website. We'll be announcing them there. There'll be an application process and a good deal of time to be able to apply for the scholarships as well.
Excellent. So everyone, thank you so much for your time. I know you're all very busy. continue to be great, continue to be influencers. We need you to do what you're doing. So just have a great Saturday if you're not working or in the hospitals. And we hope to talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, everyone, we are about